If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What could we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. No, get out. Welcome, my friends, to the It's Already Friday Again edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, the fastest hour in American media. That was Donald Trump, of course, in the Oval Office today. Venezuela has mobilized troops and militias, even though you heard that. So one is for show. Presidente Maduro, says his country's ready for combat. Wall Street Journal says, yeah, even though his military is underfunded, ill-trained, no match for American firepower, Venezuela moving troops into position on the Caribbean coast, mobilizing what Presidente Nicolas Maduro assures is a 1 million-strong militia. All propaganda. They are no match for the United States. They know it, we know it, which is why we're doing a big buildup down there, folks. Pentagon deployed elite special operations forces, including the very secretive 160th Army Special Operations Aviation Regiment, called the Night Stalkers, the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, all down in the Caribbean. Pentagon has also dispatched B-52 bombers near La Orchella. According to flight data, that is where Maduro's forces carried out drills last month featuring jets, warships, and amphibious vehicles. So it looks like we are ready. There's reports out today. First, I saw the breaking news in the New York Times, and then quickly in other places that we have captured some of the druggies, the drug cartel guys that we blew up. Some survived and they're now in custody, which according to the left means there are going to be more issues because now, what are the legal reasons? Yeah, right. And of course you have a bipartisan group of senators who are moving already to vote to make sure that we bar any ground strikes in Venezuela. Who are some of those senators? Well, Tim Kaine, eyebrows, of Virginia, Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff of Californicate, and Rand Paul of Kentucky. Those are the bipartisan. Rand Paul, and I like Rand Paul on a lot of things. On this, he's just a thorn in the side of the president when it comes to this. And I'm not saying, by the way, that he's wrong. I don't know enough about why Senator Paul objects to it, except he's saying these things like the strike is outside the law, although the president has declared these terrorism. But it's like Rand Paul I don't know. People that don't understand that Venezuela and these drug cartels have been at war with the United States, and it's okay for us to, I think, most people in America's view is it's about time somebody is doing something about this. And it's Donald Trump. And I think a lot of people don't understand why Rand Paul is objecting to it so heavily. Now, last night, the big mayoral debate in Nueva York. Carlos is like, yeah, big. All right, let's get to that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear from the guy that they're all talking about. Cut 2, and this is a mayoral candidate who happens to be in the lead, Mamdani.
I would be the mayor of this entire city, and that means ensuring that the wealth that we generate in this city is also wealth that every single New Yorker can actually feel in their pockets. Because what we have today is a system that has generated the most wealth in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, where 1 in 4 of our neighbors are living in poverty. That's unacceptable. We can't look at 500,000 kids hungry every single night as just the cost of doing business in this city. That's something we have to actually change. And I'm going to do that by fighting for my neighbors in Queens that I've come to know, who are not only the ones who own teapots and toy stores, who own diners and dry cleaners, but also the ones who work there. Because right now, all of them are being pushed out of this city by corporate greed, by private equity, and by a politics that refuses to fight for them. I will finally deliver that politics.
Follow-up.
Okay, now, let me, before I address that, let me get to, I think, the defining quote of the debate. That would be cut 4. Mom Donnie again.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. And that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I've put forward 2 proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
All right, so here we go. Let me go back. I want you to play that first cut, and then I'm going to ask you to stop it at various points, Carlos. Cut 2, Mondami. Let's start here.
I would be the mayor of this entire city, and that means ensuring that the wealth that we generate in this city is also wealth that every single New Yorker can actually feel in their pocket.
Stop it right there. The wealth that we generate in this city. Who is we? Who is we? There are a lot of people in New York who have their hands out, who are not generating anything at all. Okay, all of the illegal immigrants who are on benefits, what wealth are they generating? Hands are out. All of the habitual generational welfare clients in New York who live on the government teat and have been not just one familiar generation. Now we're going back 2, 3, 4, in some cases even more than that. Generational welfare. What wealth are they generating at all? And we are talking in many cases able-bodied people who can work, who choose not to work, but they are living on the dole. And yes, many of them live in what we call quote-unquote poverty, but you must keep in mind, folks, that that poverty line that they're living in many parts of this world, the reality is they'd be considered to be doing quite well. Does it make it right? No. Should they do better? Yes. Do we want prosperity for everybody? Yes. But let's be honest, what Americans call poor, and this was going back 20 years ago, at least 20 years ago. Heritage Foundation, I believe it was Heritage, had a major article that Rush cited, and it was about poverty in America. And back then, we're talking maybe 20, 25 years ago, 25 years ago, the average income of people in poverty, when you looked at their benefits, was $35,000, $40,000 a year, somewhere there. And that's not including everything. And that was way back when. Now it's got to be up higher. Now you're talking about EBT cards and everything else, thousands and thousands of dollars on them, et cetera, depending on who they are. Immigrants, illegal immigrants in this country, in some cases, score thousands and thousands of taxpayer dollars. Yet you have this guy sitting here talking about the wealth that we generate is going to everybody. And what does that mean? That means that people who actually earn a living, people who actually work from the sweat of their brows, he wants to take the money from them and redistribute it to people who don't produce anything, or whose production is very minuscule compared to what they are sucking out of other people who do work. Now, let's continue with that quote.
Because what we have today is a system that has generated the most wealth in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, where 1 in 4 of our neighbors are living in poverty. That's unacceptable. We can't look at 500,000 kids hungry every single night as just the cost of doing business in this city. That's something we have to actually change. And I'm going to do that by fighting for my neighbors in Queens that I've come to know, who are not only the ones who own teapots and toy stores, who own diners and dry cleaners, but also the ones who work there. Because right now, all of them are being pushed out of this city by corporate greed, by private equity, and by a politics that refuses to fight for them. I will finally deliver.
Okay, now, here's the thing. He blames private equity people. He blames corporate greed for pushing them out. Notice, they never blame themselves. The political class in New York has operated in a vacuum from democracy for almost 200 years. It has been Democrat after Democrat after Democrat. Once in a while, they throw a Republican mayor in there who cleans things up, and then they go right back to the high-crime, bamboozled Democrats who have run this city, run New York City into the ground. It is not corporate greed that is pushing people out of New York. It is the fact that New York sucks out so much money and has always misspent the taxpayer money that they've had. They spend money where they shouldn't be spending money. They have never been frugal or been good stewards of the taxpayers' money. They have wasted it. And they continue to expand government. And what does government do? Government restricts the business, the free flow of business. Those businesses he's talking about, they're burdened by New York City's government and their style of government. It's not corporate greed pushing people out of New York. It's what Democrats have done to every single blue city in America. And you look at New York City and you look at every other blue city and it's the same story. High crime because they refuse to deal with criminals. They import millions of illegal immigrants and try to give them everything that they can that American taxpayers earn. The education is corrupt and horrible. People are leaving because they can't have their kids educated in an unsafe city. All of the problems with blue cities are Democrats are responsible for. And instead, they always point the other direction and point to it's the greedy corporate people. It's the greedy hedge fund people. When we get back, I want to deal with this other thing. Let's tax the rich. Because that's all these people. Let's tax the rich. Let's tax the rich. It is a lie. It is a sham. The rich already pay the majority of taxes in America. Period. And you keep on robbing these people so that you can misspend the money on giving out to your hand instead of actually correcting the problem, which is to expand prosperity for everybody. But we'll deal with that. We have to do this first. Snerdley, fastest hour in American media. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The following is a paid political announcement.
Lifelong Democrat Diana Florence served for 25 years as a Manhattan prosecutor under DA Robert Morgenthau. She put criminals away, stood up for victims, and protected our streets. Now, Diana is challenging failed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as an independent because it's time for a DA who fights for our families, not criminals. That's why Diana has won the support of organized labor like the steamfitters, plumbers, and ironworkers, everyday New Yorkers who want a DA they can trust. Manhattan needs a DA who will do the job, prosecute crime. That's Diana Florence. Under Alvin Bragg, crime is up and prosecutions are down. Bragg doesn't prosecute crime. He plays partisan politics. Bragg failed to protect women and failed to protect workers. As a prosecutor, Diana Florence won groundbreaking convictions, fighting against corruption, domestic violence, wage theft, and deadly working conditions. She's always been a partner of unions, community groups, and to cops like us. For Manhattan District Attorney, vote for Diana Florence. Diana4DA.com. Paid for by Diana for Manhattan DA.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden Snerdley with you here, fastest hour in American media. Okay, go back to that Mondami cut. He's going to raise taxes. I'm going to raise taxes. That was cut 4. of Mr. Mondami. He's going to raise the taxes.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. And that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
Okay, so here's what he's going to do. In order to give you free bus rides and everything else, it's absolutely nonsensical proposal. He's going to raise taxes on the top 1%. The top 1% is their go-to line. They've been raising it by 1% here, 1% there, 1% here. Every time Democrats whine, they act like the rich don't pay any taxes as it is, and they're just going to only take 1%. Well, they've been whittling this 1%, and the 1% never stays the 1%. The wealthiest people in New York pay most of the taxes that keep New York going. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And what they're banking is these people love New York and will stay regardless of the financial pain. And when you say pain, well, they're wealthy. They want to stay wealthy. And they earn their wealth. And so I just got a text, Mondami's proposal, like walking into a diner with 50 people, asking 4 people in there, hey, you 4, pay for everybody else. They have enough money to get on planes. They have enough money to leave. You chase them out and you see what happens. What happens? New York turns into Detroit. It's insane. The wealthiest already pay more, in most cases, not all, than their fair share of taxes. And this is utter madness.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
There is no sign that the race is tightening at all, Cape Baldwin. If anything, Zohran Mamdani's lead is getting bigger, wider, larger. You look in September in a three-way, Mamdani was at 45, Cuomo 15 points back, Curtis Lewa, the Republican, at 17. Look at where we are now. Mamdani is actually up. He's up to 49%. Then you got Cuomo at 31%, so a 15-point advantage back in September on the average. Now it is 18 points. The bottom line is this. Andrew Cuomo needs something very big to change at this particular point, unless, of course, he becomes Teddy Roosevelt overnight. Because if something doesn't change over the final 2.5 weeks of this campaign, this race is pretty much over.
What is the historical?
That, of course, CNN's Harry Enton on the race, the New York City race. All right, now let me just say this about that. New York, and then we have other things to talk about. One of my dear colleagues, Dominic Carter, has been on fire, if you listen to his program, suggesting that Curtis Lee ought to drop out of the way. Just get out. You're going to be the forever spoiler. In fact, today he said he was urging Curtis to take off the beret after he saw Curtis put the beret back on. But, and people have been yappy with Dominic because Dominic has been calling on Curtis to get out. I have a somewhat different take than Dominic. First of all, I respect Dominic's take, and I understand why he's saying it. Politically, you look at the numbers, look at the math, that's it. Here's the thing, though, that I believe, and it contrasts with what Dominic believes. I don't think it's Curtis's job to puff up Andrew Cuomo and make him a better candidate. The voters have known who Andrew Cuomo is for decades. He was the governor of the state of New York, for goodness sakes. Before that, he was Mr. Big Shot back during the Clinton years when he mismanaged his time over in HUD and all the rest of it. Now, I understand a choice between two of the... I understand that Mamdani is like, oh, hell no, compared to Andrew Cuomo, who's just a hell no, right? I mean, do you want Andrew Cuomo to be your mayor? Hell no. Do you want Mamdani to be? Oh, hell no. No. Now, Curtis acquitted himself well on some of these things. In fact, there's a political story today about Curtis's performance. It was really good. But again, people calling him to drop out. Like, okay, if he drops out, his name is still going to be on the ballot. His diehard fans are still going to vote for him. And people that follow him. And besides, what is to say, what proof does anybody offer that if he drops out, all of a sudden all those voters that support him, the now 13%, according to that CNN poll, it dropped to 13 from 15. What's to say that 13% is going to say, oh, okay, Curtis dropped out, now let me vote for hell no. Instead of, oh, hell no. There's no, how do you determine that? It is not Curtis Sliwa's job to secure it is Andrew Cuomo's job to persuade the voters that he is the best candidate. And as a seasoned politician, he ought to know that. How do you not counter what Mamdani is saying and be able to explain to people in ways that they believe you what the wreckage is in New York and what the wreckage will be under Mamdani? Again, fears. I'm quoting. I didn't get permission, and I always do. I'll tell you who it is. I'm reading the text. My biggest fear is the mass exit of police officers from New York State if Mamdani wins. New York City also, EMTs won't feel safe. Firefighters won't feel safe. These people will start to leave. New York will be turned into Detroit. You look at that, and by the way, it doesn't take. You know what could damage New York like crazy? If you had 15 of the wealthiest New Yorkers, not 150, not 1,000. If you had 15 or 20 of the wealthiest New Yorkers that say, you know what, I'm out of here. That's it. I'm done. This city's going to hell. I'm out of here. That 15 to 20 people, if they make that decision, New York City's finances are in a turmoil. That is how much tax they already pay to support the nonsense that Democrats keep making them choke on. And Mamdani, this is going to be what is, if he's elected, will be an economic horror story. Now, why can't Andrew Cuomo make that case? I don't know. Anyway, said what I had to say about that. Let's move on. Caroline Leavitt has really stepped in it if you're Hakeem Jeffries. He is so angry at her. What did Caroline Leavitt say? Cut 6. This is what Caroline Leavitt said. And by the way, Gavin Newsom's out there flapping his jaws, also run. Somebody else, he's like, oh, let's jump on that so I can look big and tough. Anyway, here's what Caroline Leavitt said that has Democrats, especially Hakeem Jeffries, upset.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world. And
that's it. That's what she said. And Hakeem is livid. Cut 5. Hakeem Jeffries.
We've not gotten any information specifically from the Speaker or from House Republican leadership, although it is a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America. And then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress. You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible
7 of them.
Like, this is apparently who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off.
Ripping the sheets off.
In plain view of the American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's sick. She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone-cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Let's talk these things. Republican members have swastikas in their offices. This is so much, I almost want to say the BS word, because that's exactly what this is. One Republican member of Congress had a flag in his office vandalized. And there is an investigation with the Capitol Police right now to find, and this member who called the Capitol Police, to find out who did this and vandalized a flag with a swastika. There are not Republicans running around with swastika flags in their office. That is a blatant lie. And for the minority leader of the party not to know the facts, he's either ignorant and hasn't checked before he opens his mouth, or he's lying. Now, the Republicans with the vile language. You had 7 or 8 young Republicans, and I went off on it, that said vile things. Not the entire Republican Party, not even the entire Young Republicans, 15,000 members in the Young Republicans around the United States. You had 7 or 8 miscreants that said horrible things and have been widely condemned by most Republicans. Today, Politico, New York State Republican Party leaders voted unanimously to disband an organization promoting younger members following Politico's exclusive report on a young Republican chat group filled with racist and anti-Semitic rhetoric. And you can see the people's names. They have been fired from their jobs. They've been removed, all of them. And now these organizations themselves their charter has been removed, basically, and they're done. And they're going to start all over again with an organization. They still want to engage young Republican voters, but they're going to make sure that this kind of crap, horrific as it is, doesn't happen again. Now, let's go back to Caroline Leavitt's statement. She did not say the Democrat Party were terrorists. She said their constituents. And what is she talking about? She's talking about these pro-Hamas protests that have roiled this nation, and in case anybody's memory is lacking, they dominated the news almost all of last year, and they're still out trying to figure out what to protest for. And they were definitely taking what they call the pro-Palestinian, but what many of us understood, the pro-terrorist point of view. Not all of them, not all of these protesters were in favor of Hamas, but enough of the loudmouths in the group were, including calls to kill Jews and to annihilate Jews. And they were saying so, and that is in support of the pro-terrorist Hamas line of thinking. Mr. Jeffries, in case you don't know or ill-informed about that. Are they pro-illegal immigrant? Why, certainly they are. All you have to do is look at the sanctuary policies of California, New York, and everywhere else that are pro-immigrant. And even in an election year, they are not the Democrats backing away from it. Cut 1. This is the woman, Abigail Spanberger, who wants to be the next governor of Virginia.
In what we've seen recently, the really, I think, horrifying thing is that now under the new administration, or the Trump administration, where every cross into the United States is considered a criminal act.
This is the candidate The horrifying thing, she says, under the Trump administration is that every crossing, and what she's talking about but won't say the word, every illegal crossing is considered a crime. And she finds that horrifying. And by the way, yes, you go back to the things that they have said about Donald Trump, and you compare that to what Caroline Leavitt is saying, and the things that they still say. In fact, I got a story today. There's a Democrat group out of Wisconsin that was giving bracelets to children at a farmer's market. You know what the bracelets had on them? Let me just find the story real quick. They had bracelets that they were handing out to children. And the bracelets said 8647. Pretty much the call to assassinate Donald Trump. I will find that story. I can't put my finger on. I brought that story with me. I just have to find it because it's ridiculous. Oh, we didn't even get to John Bolton. He can't travel out of the country, by the way. But outside of that, he's done. Unions return to court as Trump eyes additional courts. The unions are... Here it is. I was seething. Mother describes appalling anti-Trump bracelet local Democrats gave her 8-year-old daughter. Democrats escalated their attacks on Trump, blah, blah, blah. Now here's a woman. We're down at the farmer's market having a conversation. My sister-in-law next to their booth, they had free children's books and bubbles blowing in the wind, kids having a great time. We didn't think much of it. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a man reaching over giving our children a bracelet. Kind of waited for it, okay? So those will be fun. The child runs over, hands it to us. We both look down. My sister says, I really don't know what this is, and says, I said, is he dead yet? Is he dead yet? And the bracelets were that 86. Wait a minute. Is he dead yet? Right. The bracelets, some of them had the language, is he dead yet? Others include 8647. The manager of the farmer's market said they had so many complaints now they have banned, this is the Winnebago County Democrat Party had a booth, and this is what they were giving the children. And you have Hakeem Jeffries here whining about Caroline Leavitt. We got to take a break. Fastest hour in American. That's right. The bracelet said, is he dead yet? Is he dead yet? James Golden, Snerdley, coming back. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Audio, I will have it tomorrow because it's a lengthy statement. But Caroline Leavitt has responded to Hakeem, and it is on fire. Oh, man, on this day in 1941, Jim Seals was born. The other half of Seals and Croft. 5 gold albums between 1972 and 1976. Passed away, aged 80, 2022. The music just insanely wonderful, beautiful, incredible, iconic, every word you can use for Seals and Crofts. Just an amazing group. Quick hint on Caroline Leavitt. I'm going to get this audio for tomorrow. She told Hakeem Jeffries, Democrats do not serve the interest of the American people. Hakeem Jeffries is an America last, stone cold loser. Now open up the government and stop simping to try to get your radical left-wing base to like you. Wow. And that's just part of her comments back to him. She is totally on fire. By the way, I mentioned the headline. Let me give you a quick context before we have to jump out of here. The Georgia voter turnout groups are closing. 2 Georgia turnout groups. Who were they founded by? Stacey Abrams. And you remember, in the closing days of the Biden administration, they tried to funnel billions of dollars to her. Republicans stopped it. Now these groups, these Stacey groups, are closing down. Well, we leave you today with Christopher Cross. His first album, you may remember, 4 Grammy Awards. That's the album with Sailing on it, Never Be the Same, Ride Like the Wind. This, of course, 1981. Christopher Cross at number 1 with this one, Arthur's Theme, on this day. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing, we're back tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Hope you are here, too, for the Saturday Morning Vibe. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.